Welcome to a very special edition, Tuesday Dub Day edition of Altitude Advantage. I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, and we have our digital media contributor, Susanna Ware, joining the podcast today. It's a full house on Dub Day.
You awake? Let's get a little more energy.
Suze, where's the energy?
I got plenty of energy. I'm here.
Oh, camera cut to her. We're hyped.
That's how you know.
Yeah, that's how you know.
I'm exhausted.
Years off my life. It's one of those games that the exhaustion is worth it because the Broncos improved to 8-5. They get a big win on Monday Night Football, 41-32 against the Cleveland Browns.
It sounds like a fake score, by the way.
It felt like it was an out-of-body experience at the stadium because it was just one of those games where you were worried, but then you weren't worried. I mean, what are your initial thoughts 24 hours, like 8 hours after this game has ended?
Where are we? What day is it? What time is it? I've had like 8 shots of espresso today just to try to get through this day. I think what a fun game is the main thing, right? Like when you can step back for a second and realize what you just watched, it was quite entertaining. It was quite fun. I know that certainly the Broncos didn't want to let Jerry Jeudy record the most receiving yards in history against them, that the most that they'd ever let a opposing player give up. But I loved like the theatrics of it and the drama of him falling into the end zone and he's taunting the crowd. Like he was this great wrestling heel, if you want to look at it that way. Yeah. And it was back and forth, punch for punch. And the Broncos just kept coming back. And every time you thought, maybe the Browns are going to steal this one, and the Broncos are going to limp into their bye week with a tough loss to a former 3-win football team. They just found a way to get it done, and man, what a win. Exhilarating. You don't cheer in the press box, so I definitely threw my hands up silently when Jaquan McMillan picks off that pass and takes it back for a score. So, yeah, what a fun game, and it was stressful in the moment, but a big win, a memorable win that I think if you look back at this season, a few weeks from now or in the offseason, I feel like this is going to be one of those moments that you remember, especially if, knock on wood, the Broncos can finish things off here and get to the playoffs.
Yeah, when we were in the press box, it was actually really special to see the entire crowd just erupt after that second pick six of the game from Jaquan McMillan. And it's just Broncos country. They always say, like, it's such a special fan base. The players always credit how fun it is to play at home, but having that moment, Monday night, prime time, you have fireworks, you have a glow halftime show, and then for that moment to really kind of seal the day, entire stadium erupted, and we can definitely speak to silently cheering in the press box. Suze, I got to go over to you. When that play happened, what was going through your mind?
Well, for most of the game, what was going through my mind was if I was watching this as a casual fan on a Monday night, I'd be pretty happy with this primetime game. This was very entertaining, but instead I spent the entire second half barely breathing, but no, that play, I mean, it was like you said, the theatrics of the game. It was a little hard to believe that, it really came down to a moment like that, but it was very fitting for the rest of the way that the game went. So awesome moment.
Good script.
Yeah. You can't make it up. It's one of those games.
Well, they did, right? You know how the script works?
Well, I mean, I'm saying in the sense of like when you look at this game, all the comments after, which we'll get to your comments in a second, all the comments are like, wow, it's a Monday night classic, an instant classic. And in my head, I'm like, I'm really happy that this game won because the script would have definitely flipped in a whole other direction. Because Jameis Winston had a career day. Obviously, Jeudy had a day as well. And then the Broncos defense admitted that there was some things they want to clean up. But it's good when you go into a bye week with a win. And I know the comments were going crazy on our YouTube channel. So, Aric, I'm going to hand it off to you.
This is a live reading of the YouTube comments. So who knows what could possibly be in here.
Isn't it always live?
That's true. Okay, so this is from our analysis video last night. Miranda says, "We're back, baby. Bo is our guy." I think Bo showed some stuff.
I'm gonna need more energy from you on that comment.
We're back.
There you go.
I just made someone veer off the road because I just screamed, and I apologize to whoever's driving.
It's Club Dub in every car in Denver right now, so it'll be fine.
That's crazy. OTWER 22, Otwer maybe. What an amazing win. We're starting to win games like this that in years past would have been a loss. Loving my team right now. I I agree with that. I think that if you look at this team in previous years and other guys, we said this after the Raiders game, said it again last night. If you look at previous years, I think when something starts to go wrong, it would kind of spiral. And last night they didn't let that happen, and that was a big reason why they won. It just feels like this team finds ways to win as opposed to finding ways to lose. Not a ton of comments on the analysis yet, so we're going to go back to our Thursday show when we previewed this, or Friday show. Gosh, this
Friday show. It's basically next season.
What happened? Maximus Cassidy says, I have a gut feeling we will win out, be 12-5. He says, my brain says 10-7, but my gut says 12-5.
All right.
So maybe the heart says 11-6 because that's somewhere in the middle of the heart, of the head and the gut. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Mario A. Gustin, 3355. Apologies if I butchered that. Aloha, Aric, Elisa, Susie. We'll take it. And Broncos country. Happy holidays. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Let's continue to stay focused at the game at hand. If we continue to take care of business, we will be in the playoffs. They said, let's pray for a speedy recovery for our QB. At that time, Bo Nix was still limited. He, of course, was fine, went ahead and played. Mm-hmm. I think this game was interesting coming in because it felt like a game that, like the Chargers and Bengals and Chiefs games, it feels like there's this juice there because they're teams that are, I mean, the Bengals not as much anymore, but they have Joe Burrow, an MVP candidate. But the Chargers and Chiefs are in the playoff field, and so you feel like those are big games. Yeah. And it's easy in some ways if you're us or you're a fan out there to be like, okay, well, we just got to count wins against the Raiders, Browns, Colts, right? But you still got to go out there and do it. And so there was almost this feeling of like a win against the Browns was expected and you needed it, but a loss was really, really bad. And so it's just this interesting feeling where you're like happy you got the win, but it's also like, well, we needed this win, right?
Yeah. We needed to take care of business.
Okay, just a few more comments here. Mr. Presto, 85, says, feeling like Suze resembles Mims, finding ways to make plays. Way to go, Suze and Mims.
That is quite the compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. Suze, any other similarities between you and Marvin Mims?
Speed.
Ooh.
That's true. At typing or what?
Everything. Running.
She's a runner. She's a track star, you know?
That's true.
What can I say?
Former NCAA star, Susanna Weir.
She'll be here all season.
Mims made a great play.
Yes, he did.
Great throw by Bo to get it to Marvin, and he just put it in the perfect spot. Marvin bobbled it a little bit. I was very scared for 1 second, and then he caught it, and Joe Buck had a great call. Instantly, he's gone.
Yeah.
And it was true. He's at the 50-yard line. It was clear no one was going to catch him. I liked his little jump up into the crowd. Mm-hmm. Suze, do you think you could have jumped up there?
I'd like to think so, but probably not.
Okay, so that's where the similarities end. That's okay.
It's all right. He did say when they asked him, so how much fun was that? He said, well, I didn't really want to do a dance, and nobody was close enough to me to celebrate, so I jumped in the stands. They're like, oh, would you do it again? He's like, I would do it after every touchdown, as many touchdowns as I get. So
it's beautiful.
He liked the leap.
Monica XOXO Ayala says, Elisa, spelled wrong, that orange jacket is rockin'. Shout out to Aric, spelled right. Wow, that rarely happens. And Susan, spelled correctly for Susan, but not Susanna's name. Thanks for the coverage of Broncos country. A loud Mile High shout out from Los Angeles.
Hey!
All right, all's forgiven. Can you guys say happy holidays to my Broncos kids, Omar and Xavier? They are proud of our team. Shout out to Omar and Xavier. Happy holidays.
Shout out Omar and Xavier. Happy holidays. Shout out to my LA people.
Walker Curtis, 1648, says, LOL, you guys are funny. Thanks.
We're a hoot.
Harold Sanchez, 4825. I thought Aric, spelled wrong, throw to Susan,
I think
spelled right, but wrong name.
Erica, actually.
I think it was supposed to be Aric apostrophe S. I think it's a typo.
But does it say Erica?
Kind of. Unclear. Throw to Susan. It definitely says Susan. Was great form. He might be coming for Bo's job. Wow.
That's crazy.
I think we know that Marvin's hands are a little bit better than Suze's. After last week's the drop heard around the world. Kevin Locke says that Denver Broncos organization needs to revamp their entire media department. Wow. Sorry. We haven't slept.
We haven't, but you know
That's
what?
going to be the last comment. I think that was a good one to end on.
Yeah, that was definitely.
Why you got to hate on a Victory Tuesday,
Exactly.
a dub day?
Oh, that's a burner from a Browns fan, probably.
Ooh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just here talking about a win. We're having a good time.
I'm just saying, how you hate from outside the club. You can't even get in.
Ooh.
Anyways, as we look to this
Wow.
Monday
Wow.
night
That's like a much
football
cooler way of what I
win.
said.
As we look ahead to this Monday night football win, there was a lot of things that stood out from this game. It's hard to even decide where to start, right? Because it was such a roller coaster of a game.
You're the host. You got to figure it out.
I'm gonna go with the defense.
Okay.
A couple podcasts ago, we asked, who our Pro Bowl picks were, and I had said Nick Bonito, and
Wow.
my boy is shining. That's all I'm gonna say. He is shining. He had a really big game yesterday. He had a sack. He obviously had that huge pick six to the house. The first of his career, I believe.
Is this about Nick Bonito or is this about you being right? I think both.
Look.
It can be both.
We're both Latinos. We look out for each other.
Yeah,
right?
there's nothing wrong with both.
It's
Like the Troy Franklin back in the day.
I'm just stating the facts that I had a good prediction. Anyways,
It was his first interception
his first return for a touchdown.
of his NFL career. His first touchdown, he told me after the game, since senior year of high school. He did have an interception, I think his sophomore year of college, to seal a game. But man, he looked like a DB out there.
Yeah, he said, look, I used to play safety. You guys thought I was lying. And when I asked him, I said, look, when you have that much green in front of you, what do you think? Are you looking yourself on Thunder Vision? And he goes, honestly, I was just really hoping not to get caught.
Well, he kept looking over his shoulder. I was like, just run.
Yeah.
I was like, Nick, man.
you feel it. It's like then the nerves kick in.
It's like, man, Nick, you're going to slow yourself down by continuing to turn your head. Just run straight.
That's what they tell you as a former runner. That's what they tell you. They say never look behind you.
Drop the facts, Suze.
Never look behind you. Straight ahead.
Wow. There's something like poetic about that for life too, isn't there?
There is. But look, we said we had the same: look good, feel good, play good. They had the Summit White helmets with the Midnight Navy jerseys. I want to get your guys' thoughts on the jerseys because that was a big topic going in. What'd you think of the jerseys on Monday night?
I like him. I think Jaquan McMillan made some big plays last year against the Vikings wearing the Navy jerseys too. So maybe he likes the Navy. Maybe he feels empowered or something when he wears the Navy.
Suze, any thoughts on the jerseys?
I mean, they were nice. I like the helmets. PJ Locke liked the helmets. He said he can't wait to hang it up. So
He's like, I need this in my house.
Susan's football only. She's not concerned with the uniforms.
First of all, the uniforms are a big part of it because you look at the way this defense played. They were obviously really hyped up. They had 3 interceptions for a total of 171 yards and 2 touchdowns, the first time since 2018 and the 5th game ever with multiple pick sixes. When there's a lot to say about how this defense played, obviously Jameis Winston had a day, but in those key moments towards the end of the game, in the final stretch, when they needed to step up, they did. And I feel like that really is much louder than what they gave up to Judy and Winston. I think what they were able to do on the defense side of the ball, Barton, McMillan, Bonito, just the way that they were able to really capitalize on these mistakes, I felt was huge.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's better to be able to do that than not do that, right? And if you're going to give up a lot of yards and give up a lot of plays, and they said after the game, this is not how we want to play. This is not up to our standard. We got to find a way to fix it. But to still have the ability to make those game-changing plays is obviously a good sign, and it shows that you've got some players with that ability to make those plays. Like Nick Bonito, people are talking about him now as kind of this fringe candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, and that speaks to kind of the breakout season that he's having. Adds another sack, has the pick six, like
Second
you mentioned.
in the league in sacks.
Yeah, so he's playing tremendously well. And then to have a guy like Jaquan McMillan, who I think Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were talking about on the broadcast, that maybe Vance Joseph said that, you know, he's been through some ups and downs this season in terms of his play, and he comes out and records a big-time interception, and then has the presence of mind to stand up and run it back when Elijah Moore is just sitting there on the sideline not touching him for some reason. That was kind of an odd decision. But, yeah, it runs it back, makes a big play. And so if you're going to give up those yards, can you find a way to make the game-changing plays when it matters? They did last night. They need to find a way to get back to playing closer to their standard, obviously, because you can't count on pick sixes. You can't count on that many turnovers. Now, obviously, Jameis is a guy that throws the ball around. He's going to give you opportunities. But they've got to find a way to tighten things up. But all that said, the Broncos now the last 2 weeks have won football games when they have not played their best. And there's something to be said for that in terms of the margin for error increasing, in terms of what, how well coached this team is, of when you're not at your best, can you still find a way to win? Because it would be easy, and in the past, if the Broncos were not on their A game, this game in a way kind of reminds me of a game against the Eagles back in, I think it was 2021, where the Broncos just had this big upset against the Cowboys. You come home, it's an Eagles team that struggled, and it feels like a game you should win, and you just make too many mistakes, and the Eagles eventually put it out of reach, and it felt like a missed opportunity. And in some ways, this felt like it could be that same type of game where you just be like, man, we weren't on our game today, especially defensively, and it cost us. And so many times in the past, when the defense hasn't been good, that's when the Broncos have struggled because the offense hasn't been able to pick it up. And I know that the Broncos defense scored 2 touchdowns, but Bo Nix and company, they still put up, 27 points? And so they still held their own. They did what they needed to do. They went down the field, got a go-ahead field goal there late in the game. They picked the defense up. And we've seen the defense pick the offense up plenty of times. And so just the fact that they didn't play their best and they still found a way to make those plays and win, that was really encouraging and not something, like we said at the top of the show, that I think happens in previous years.
Yeah. Pastor Tan said it wasn't perfect, but we got the win, and that's all that matters. It was actually really interesting, something you said about McMillan's pick six when he kind of fell flat and then no one touched him. Courtland Sutton said that when he was on the sideline, he didn't realize it was a touchdown. And he kind of figured they were just running to kind of celebrate. And then when he saw the touchdown flash across Thunder Vision, he said, quote, "I lost my mind," because he's like, it was one of those key moments in this game where, as you said, the momentum kept shifting back and forth. And it was a matter of who's going to grab it and hold on to it. And the drive that Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton were able to put in that fourth quarter, I think was a huge thing. And obviously at the time, you go away with 3 points. You do enough to, kind of be out of reach. But I feel like that drive was really huge, even though stats wise, it may not be the fanciest compared to the Mims touchdown or things like that.
Yeah. Bo Nix called it a big boy drive. And it was, how do you handle adversity there, right? Because your last series, you're up 6. Your defense gets a stop, and you've got a chance to go take a 2-score lead and really put things maybe not out of reach, but at least give yourself some breathing room. And with 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and instead Bo Nix is picked off on the first play of that drive. Sean Payton later says, hey, it was a bad call. It was on me. He takes responsibility for that one. But the Browns take advantage. They go 72 yards. They score a touchdown. They take the lead, and you're like, this just feels like one of those moments where you're going to regret that interception or you're going to regret not taking advantage when you can. And again, so many times in the past where I don't know if the Broncos can overcome the mental, just the challenge of blowing a 10-point or a double-digit lead, right? And multiple times in the second quarter and the third quarter, the Broncos pushed that lead to double digits, and the Browns came right back. And so you're right, for Bo Nix in this offense to find a way to score any points, to move it down the field, get a 19-yard pass that Courtland Sutton caught near midfield that was big, finds Lucas Kroll. He kind of drills it right past, I think it was Shelby Harris for another 12 yards, converts 1 third down to Courtland Sutton to get it down to the Cleveland 18. And while they're not ultimately able to pick up that first down, and Sean Payton said that he called timeout, didn't like the look that they were getting for the play he had. And so he said, listen, we're going to kick the field goal. And I think that's the right decision there. You've got to take the points and retake the lead. And yeah, maybe Cleveland goes down and kicks a field goal, but I just think if you go for it there and you don't get it, and even if you do get it there on 4th and 1, you still got to work the clock down. You still got to score a touchdown. You still got to get a 2-point conversion. Otherwise, the Browns can go down anyway. And maybe it increases your win percentage, but it doesn't seal it by any means. So, a big-time drive there by the Broncos. And then you mentioned McMillan getting up and running back.
Yeah.
The presence of mind there to do that was really important because there's 1:59 left in the game. If he just goes down there at the Cleveland 44, the game's not over by any means because you're still outside of field goal range. Cleveland still has 3 timeouts. do you run it 3 times? Are you a little bit aggressive? I don't know. But either way, even if you just had a field goal, you're now at the point where you're up. But that would have been 5 points, right? Or 5 points. And so Cleveland still would have had a chance to go down and score a touchdown. And so things would not have been guaranteed. You would have had to sweat it out. So the fact that he had the presence of mind to stand up and run it back and make it a 2-score game, that was a huge deal that I think in the immediate aftermath, I maybe didn't fully grasp, like, it's a good thing he didn't just stay down and start celebrating. Like the awareness was really good.
I thought that's what he was doing, and then it turned out to be a touchdown. Suze, thoughts on that play?
Looked like some other people on the field also looked like that was what he was doing, but
no
then they decided to get up and run with him. So, no, I loved what Bo said after the game, because he also said he didn't realize. And then on the broadcast, they showed him putting his jacket back on after the play was over. He was ready to get back out on the field, and then afterwards he said, it was pretty nice. I was over on the bench with the heaters, and I didn't have to do anything. So,
I mean, McMillan said after the game that he said, quote, "When I see my brothers out there making plays, it gives me the I have to make a play." And he said that he was on the sideline saying, I'm going to make a play. Pat Surtain co-signed that statement saying that, yeah, like I told him, like, you're going to make a play. We're going to make a play. And it's like you almost manifested that moment. And he said, Pat after the game said that he was really proud of him and the way that he was able to come up with such a big play and such a pivotal game and such a pivotal moment. And everyone that you talked to on this defense after the game mentioned, like, look, we kind of got outside of ourselves. We were kind of almost like losing control, and people were getting chippy on the sidelines. And PJ Locke said, but we came together. And Jonathan Cooper after the game credited PJ Locke and Malcolm Roach by saying, like, our leaders on this team, they stepped up when we were kind of frustrated and that things weren't going our way, and really kind of got us to unite. And Cooper said that's one of the things that makes our defense so strong, is that we play for each other. And so they respect the voices that are coming up, especially in a game like that, when it's easy to kind of get frustrated and just tune out any reason. But you almost see the shift when they were kind of losing control of things, and then next thing you know, they were able to lock in and go after this win.
Yeah, and to get the win and be able to go into the bye week with a victory, like we said, instead of having to go in with a loss and sit with it for almost 2 weeks and realize... It would have been a
very sad podcast.
It would have been a sad podcast. I would have just been sitting here crying. I would have sounded like that commenter.
It would have been like white noise. You'd be like...
Yeah, just whimpering over here in the corner. But I think that each win you get, it obviously becomes easier and easier to make the postseason. But the fact that the Broncos now... and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but can go 2-2, for example, down the stretch and likely get in, you give yourself some wiggle room and some room to breathe where you can now afford to drop 1 or 2 against some tough opponents down the stretch because you put yourself in position by winning games like this. And listen, it's been a long stretch here, 13 consecutive games. We've talked about it being the longest or the latest, bye week Sean Payton's ever had. I think that this franchise has ever had. And
this is the latest bye week you've ever had?
Well, yeah. 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 And as soon as this podcast is over, we're there. So we gotta power through. But I think that if you had limped to the bye and lost this game, you would have felt like, man, we missed an opportunity and we missed a chance. And instead, you go in with a win, a 3-game winning streak, which I think, does that match the longest winning streak of the year so far for this team? Suze, fact check.
I think you could fact check while we keep talking.
I think that's right. And if you say, I think.
What do you
right
say?
To me.
I believe
I
that's
believe
right.
that is correct.
I believe that you are correct.
Then that's right. But now you can view the late bye week as kind of like this huge bonus that you have that other teams don't have. And I know the Colts have it, so it's not necessarily the exact same. Like the Colts and Broncos are in the same situation for this upcoming week, but after that with the Chargers, with the Bengals, Chiefs even, like it's a different deal for them. And now you can view it as, hey, we powered through these 13 weeks. We've won 8 of our last 11 games, right? Because they started 0-2, now 8-5. So 8 of our last 11 games, we've powered through this. And now let's use this as a benefit of let's rest up for this final stretch. So, but the difference in mentality, if you had lost, you would have been like, and we had a chance to get to this bye week at 8-5 and really set ourselves up well. And instead we let it slip away. And so again, credit to these guys for not letting that happen and finding a way on a night where a bunch of crazy stuff happened. Mm-hmm. You find a way to make the plays that win the football game. And now you go into these final 4 weeks set up really nicely, and knock on wood, you still got to win games. You can't, it's not over yet. And then you want to make some noise in the playoffs if you get there. But you've got yourself in as good of a position as you have been since 2016, right? And that team was also different because the offense was starting to fade a little bit late in the year, whereas this group seemingly, and I know it was a tough day in some regards, like Bo Nix had a couple of picks, first multi-interception game since week 2, but this offense each week seems to be getting better. And so can you keep that surge going down the stretch here?
Yeah. I mean, Bo Nix after the game said that this bye week came at a good time. And he's like, look, this is my first bye week, so I'm going to try to, rest up. And because they asked him, like, do you think a bye week this late when you guys are surging is going to hurt your momentum? And he was kind of like, well, he was like, yeah, but he's like, I don't think so, because you have to make sure you take care of your body and your mind and everything as you kind of go into this final stretch. I know a lot of the guys, it's almost like they ran a marathon, right? And they're getting like a chance to catch their breath. And I feel like we're using a lot of running references.
Susan's never run a marathon.
So, I have not run a marathon.
In my mind, she has. She's won every medal possible. So,
I don't know about that.
She's a superstar here. But I'm saying, like, they're running into, you don't want to hit a wall. And I think, like, with the bye week coming this late, you're able to kind of catch your breath. You get the win, so you're not sitting at home or on vacation dwelling about this loss. You're in a positive mood. I feel like that really kind of carries on. But Suze, I have to ask you, when we're walking around, we're kind of like seeing the fans, seeing everything, seeing the players post game, going in the locker room. Was it just me, or did it feel like a sigh of relief from all the players? Like, we got the win. It's bye week time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just goes back to what they were all talking about. Like, it wasn't the best, and they knew that. And anyone that has been watching the team all season knows it wasn't the best on either side of the ball, but still finding a way to get it done. I feel like, and I mean, you have to have a bye week at some point, right? So it's going to come at some point.
And whether true.
And what a better way to do it than to kind of go into this in a really good position. And so. Since you have to have that bye week at some point, I think this is the ideal way to have it. And I definitely felt that, just from being around all of them last night.
Yeah. I talked to Orlando Franklin, former Bronco.
ESPN analyst. That's right. And I asked him, I was like, as a former player, did you like the late? Like, would you like a late bye week? I don't think he's ever had one this late, but he was kind of like, yeah, you at the time when you see it on the schedule, you hate it because you're just like, oh, like there's so much ahead. But when you get there, you realize it does turn into a benefit, because right now a lot of teams are dealing with injuries or dealing with certain things that they don't have time to correct, or they're dealing with something that they can't fix in a week span. But now you have this break where you can really kind of hone in on things. He's like, look, players will get a break, but the coaches are in there working. They're in there trying to see what can be changed. I know that Peyton talked about some things they wanted to clean up from Monday's game. But I feel like with this bye week, when you looked at the schedule, it's like, wow, that's really late. But now seeing where they are with the rookie quarterback, with the defense that really needs to, I feel like, catch his breath after this long sprint that they've been able to have, I think it almost comes as a blessing in disguise. Yeah, and you never want to speculate about injuries, certainly, right? But like Riley Moss missed this game. I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have, oh gosh, I hurt the microphone there. We're about to put the microphone on IR because of you. Jeez. Well, poor Mike. Like it's not going to hurt Riley Moss that he's got an extra 2 weeks now before the next game, right? And who knows, if he's back or not. Sean Payton hasn't indicated one way or another in that area. Obviously, has not been placed on IR, so that maybe gives you some indication. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like he gets a little bit of extra time. Brandon Jones obviously leaves the game. Devin Key comes in to replace him. Who knows? Sean Payton was not asked about his injury after the game, but certainly it can't hurt to give him some more time. You've got guys like Zach Allen, Bo Nix, who have been on the injury report, John Franklin Myers, who have dealt with stuff over the last few weeks. it gives you a chance now to kind of heal up for this final stretch. And so
an important final stretch.
Yeah,
too.
very much so. And so I do think it ends up being a benefit of like every team at some point in the season seems to hit like this little stretch where maybe a couple injuries happen at once, and some teams you just got to power through it. And the Broncos are, and again, not speculating here, we don't know the status of some of these guys, but like it just feels like gives you a chance to heal up here before the last 4 weeks. And even then, like you play the Chargers on a short week, but you get an extra 3 or 4 days after that to get ready for Cincinnati. So should be hopefully really good for this Broncos team as they look to stay fresh down the stretch.
It's almost like a mini reset for them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then obviously, like you said, with the TNF game, that also serves as a mini bye week for them as well. So I think and they got getting flexed into that game. Like Sean Payton said, like it's better to be flexed in than flexed out. So I think like everything that they're doing is kind of just leading to different things. Cooper after the game, they asked him, about the matchup, and he just looked at the camera and he was just like, I'm just happy we won the game. Like it was just one of those games where it's like anything that could go wrong was going wrong, and then we found a way to just snatch that momentum back and close this out strong. And I think especially under the lights of primetime, man, the Twitter comments were buzzing, good and bad. Just like saying what an amazing game this was, giving credit to the defense, the adjustments. There's a lot of talk about obviously Pat Surtain's play and all those things. So I think when you have that and you're going into the like I said, this bye week, as much as they do an amazing job blocking out all the chatter, I'm sure they don't mind hearing the positive chatter from this week going in.
Yeah, definitely. Now you got to keep it going forward. And I think as you look back at these first 13 weeks, in a lot of ways, there's a lot to be proud of and a lot to be excited about if you're a Broncos fan. And certainly, we were hopeful. And I always talk about before the season going through the schedule and saying like, okay, let's break this into quarters. And can you go 2-2 here? Can you go 3-1 here? Can you just get one game here? And for the first time in a long time, this season, the Broncos have done exactly that, where like you've got 2 tough games to start the year and you start 3 of 4 on the road, and yet the Broncos somehow find a way to win 2 of those, which was really critical to keeping them in this race. Because if you fall to 0-3 or 0-4, or 1-3, like that's a difficult scenario to overcome. And then you look at the next stretch and you say, okay, well, we've got 3 out of 4 games at home. We play a Saints team that is struggling. Can you find a way to win 3 of the next 4? Boom, you do that. Yeah. Then you look at this next stretch of 5 before the bye, and you've got 2 really tough games against the Ravens and Chiefs back-to-back on the road. Almost stole that one in Kansas City. But you just think, okay, can you get 2 or 3? Even if it was just 2, like you'd still be alive. But the fact that you're able to get 3 of those 5, you're now sitting here at 8-5. It's obviously surpasses all the national expectations from before the year started. I think you've learned so much about your rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. He's gotten better each and every week. We'll see if he ends up winning Rookie of the Year or not. Obviously, we've got 5 games left. I think it's going to be a close race between him and Jaden Daniels. And even Brock Bowers, I know he's not a quarterback, so he's like not.
He's been balling too, though.
Yeah, he's been great. He's potentially the best tight end in the entire league. And so it shows that Rookie of the Year is a quarterback award, because you can do whatever you want at another position. It doesn't really matter. But like Bo keeps playing better and better and making throws like he did on the one to Mims, where you're like, this can be our franchise guy. And you see Cortland Sutton stepping up, and you see Nick Bonito taking a huge jump and becoming a primetime player that people are talking about as a potential defensive player of the year. You see Pat Surtain kind of, I don't want to say bounce back because he was still really good last year, but like it wasn't up to where he wanted it to be. And now this year, if he's not an all-pro, I think my head will explode, because he's just been incredible back there and is such a good player. And so, man, this is a team that everybody before the year externally talked about. Maybe they're not talented enough yet. Maybe they need another year. And Sean Payton kept saying, young and hungry can be dangerous. Young and hungry can be dangerous. And, man, so far it's been dangerous. And the Broncos feel like a team that you don't want to see over these final 4 or 5 weeks. You might, if you're the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Bills or Steelers or whoever, you might not want Denver coming to your building in the playoffs, and because they feel like a team that is well coached, not going to beat themselves, and can give you a game. And when you look back over these first 13 weeks, a lot of exciting plays, a lot of exciting moments, whether it's a pick six against the Raiders, right, or a big game in prime time in New Orleans, throwing, 4 touchdowns against Carolina that he did that. I mean, it's just been a really fun start to the season. And that's what it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertaining. The Broncos have posted 30-plus points times this year, just about, than they have in the last 3 years combined. And so they're scoring on offense. They're playing good defense. They're getting takeaways. They're sacking the quarterback. They're on pace to break the franchise record in sacks. Yep. There's just been so much good. And, man, this is what you hoped for when Sean Payton got hired, that he'd be able to do this. And the way that this year has started, it's been really fun to watch.
Well, I think it's just, like you said, trusting what Sean Payton has built here with the Broncos and the culture he's been able to do that. Following what he's instilled in these players, the accolades come naturally, because that's what you're training them to do, is just by playing well, everything's going to come naturally that way. And, like we said, the Broncos head into their bye week 8-5. They reached the 8-win mark by week 13 for the first time since the 2016 season. And through the first 13 weeks of the season, the Broncos have totaled 305 points scored, which is the 4th most by the team since 2010. So they've really been rolling. So I do have to ask, you named a few already. I don't know if one of those is the favorite, but Susan, I'm going to come to you too about what's one of your favorite moments so far this season. It can be whatever, whether it's a play or just a moment that happened. But I have to come to you first, Aric. What is one of your top plays or just a moment from this season that really stands out as we look back 13 weeks?
Oh, man. I don't know if I have a singular moment. I think it's every time that Bo Nix makes a throw that you're just like, whoa. And it might be might be the throw to Vele against the Falcons, might be the throw to Mims last night. It might be the dagger to Cortland Sutton. It was fun beating the Jets. That's true. It might be the dagger to Cortland Sutton there in New York in just terrible weather. But I think each time he makes a throw like that, I kind of just look around and for, did anybody else see that? And you're like, man, maybe we found the guy. And each week that he does it and continues to stack those weeks, you get more and more convinced that he's the long-term answer. And certainly I think everyone here believes that. And it's just, I've been here for a lot of quarterbacks. And so when you see a guy kind of grab hold of that role, and especially the way that Bo has done it, earning his teammates' trust and respect as a rookie, being a captain, kind of this humble guy. There's just so much to like about him as the face of your franchise. And so, it's those little moments from Bo where you're like, man, what a throw, or what an athletic play, shaking off whoever it was from the Chargers, and he takes off down the sideline. The intensity, the fiery nature that he has, it's all been really fun to watch. And in addition now to thinking, hey, the Broncos have a chance to win each week, it's also what is Bo Nix going to do next? And that's pretty great if you're a Broncos fan that in year one with a rookie quarterback, you've got that.
Suze?
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a cop-out answer because I'm not giving a singular moment either. But, I feel like coming in, starting the season, like we talked about, all the outside noise about what the expectations were for this team. The players kind of responded to that in the way that you would expect them at the beginning of the year, saying, well, we believe, but you don't know how much of that is actually, what they're supposed to say versus what they actually believe. But to see that actually translate on the field throughout the season and just the development that has happened game to game. You all right with that microphone over there?
All right, keep talking, Sus.
I'm happy first of all, I'm happy that's on the 3 shot, so no one, everyone saw that. Continue, Sus.
Anyway, just the development and the amount of players, especially offensively, that have gotten involved and defensively. Just how many people have contributed to this, and just seeing that internal belief continue to grow. And also just to piggyback on Bo, I've loved watching Bo and Cortland Sutton's connection develop both on and off the field. There was a video I saw someone tweet last night of them after the game, just side hugging each other, walking off the field. It's just so great to see, seeing just the chemistry that they have, both results wise and just off the field, the belief that they have in each other has been really cool to see.
Yeah. Court passed 5,000 yards in his career. So,
Do you have a top moment?
do I have a top moment? I have, since I'm going to just be on brand with you guys. My favorite, honestly, moment is just the way this defense has been playing. I'm huge. Defense to me, defense wins championships, and I was a huge fan of the no-fly zone. And so to see this team really kind of rally around this, we're going to get after you, we're going to put pressure on you, whether it's our front guys or, Pat and PJ Locke and all those guys in the backfield. It's like, we're going to make it really hard for you to make a decision, whether you want to run it, whether you want to throw it. We're going to make every decision you make hard. And to me, seeing the way that this defense has been able to really gel together with all these guys, we talked about it a few times that this defense really has one first rounder, I believe, on it, which is Pat Surtain. And so it's easy to write them off. And so when you kind of have this defense playing it the way they're playing, showing the world what they're able to do, lead the league in sacks, I think it's a credit to Vance Joseph. I think it's a credit to Sean Payton trusting, what they got and the guys they got, the Jonah Ellises of the world, and just the way that they've all kind of rallied. And they're just a fun group to kind of watch when they play. Every time when DJ Jones or Malcolm Roach gets a sack, the way they celebrate on the sideline, they will sprint from the sideline to the end zone if there's a big defensive play just to celebrate and kind of have those moments. So I'm a big defensive person. I know people like the shootouts and stuff like that, but I do like the games where it's just back and forth and you're basically waiting to see who flinches. And the Broncos defense has not really flinched too much this season, and that's been really fun to watch because they've gone back to what we used to see, back in 2015 when they won the Super Bowl. And I think on the first couple podcasts we had said we're not comparing them to that team, and now we're so it's fun to have seen them develop and the way that they just all look out for each other, push each other. And speaking of relationships, watching the relationship between Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper has been really fun to watch because they really, truly motivate each other. Even yesterday, I was doing the one-on-one with Nick Bonito, and Cooper is just yelling tremendous in the background, 15, 1-5, 1-5, just being his hype person. And I think that is very special because when Cooper was doing his scrum, then Bonito comes in and is just yelling Cooper's name. And I think seeing the way that these players really care about each other, that's what's going to win you games in the long run because it gets rough, it gets tough, and when you have voices of reason that you'll actually listen to, that's going to get you out of those moments where you can potentially lose a game.
Absolutely. And sure, we will come back next week, right after this bye week, and talk all sorts of, what happened over the weekend. There's some big games. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Jets can pull an upset over the Dolphins and help the Broncos out. See if they can get it together here for a weekend and help Denver.
Well, this playoff picture is looking mighty interesting.
Yeah, if the Broncos win, just as we wrap up here, if the Broncos win 2 more games and one of them is the Colts game in week 15, then they just need 1 loss from Miami and they clinch the playoffs no matter what. So, other ways to get in, and the Broncos can still move up a little bit if they can beat the Chargers in a couple weeks, but it'll be nice to sit back, watch the playoff picture unfold, maybe have some things go Denver's way, and then get back to work.
Yeah, right now I just looked up on NFL.com, playoff probability, 76%, which that was something Next Gen Stats had predicted. If they came out with a win on Monday Night Football, that was going to go up. But I think every guy has said it. They want to be in charge of their own destiny, and right now they are doing that. So before we get out of here for the bye week, final thoughts. Aric?
It's been fun to watch this team get going, and excited to watch these final 4 weeks. It feels like, oh my gosh, we just gotta go. The mic is, I've lost control of my hands.
The mic is attacked. Again, I think I say this every week. If you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you guys also head over to the Denver Broncos official YouTube page to watch this epic battle between Aric and the microphone.
That's right. I'm ready for the bye week, I think. That's my takeaway.
Suze, what about you? The fan, you were new to the show. You came in, a couple weeks ago. How have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
Oh, it's been great. It's been, and just being here. Elisa and I come in, team starts winning. Eric's been here for 9 years. What could be better? So
True. It's a good
that's
point.
my takeaway.
Yes. My takeaway is that this team is really good at just blocking out the noise. And like I said, how you going to hate from outside the club? You can't even get in. So we are going to head to our version of Club Dub, which is our offices, to continue on the great coverage of this amazing team. So we're going to be off for the bye week, but you can always check out the latest headlines on denverbroncos.com, review the past podcasts, listen to any analysis that Aric has put out post game. And yeah, that's it for here. For everybody here, I am your team reporter and host, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have our fortune teller, our mathematician, our coach, our mic boxer, Aric DiLalla, and we have our digital media contributor, Susanna Ware, as well. We appreciate you guys, Broncos country, and we will see you for the final stretch of the season.